time, we got into our top 5 Bronco free agent wish list.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Stoke, why don't you quickly recap your top 5, number 5 down to 1.
Honorable mention.
Honorable mention, too.
Zach Ertz, tight end, Washington. Veteran presence there. We're going to draft a guy. I think he'd be good for Bo, be good to mentor a young tight end. Next on the list was Dre Greenlaw, inside linebacker, 49ers. We remember him popping his Achilles in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs over a year ago. Didn't play much last year. You won't have to give him a big deal. My running back that I want to bring in, veteran running back, is J.K. Dobbins. You saw the Chargers with him in the lineup, and they were a dynamic running team. Without him, they were nothing. They couldn't run the ball. Jawan Johnson's my next guy, tight end Saints. Younger than Ertz, but also could be a guy where you get him, frees you up in the draft a little bit, but also would be a good mentor to a young tight end. My receiver, number 2 on the list here, is Chris Godwin. He can play inside, he can play outside. Good teammate, checks a lot of those boxes. Number 1 free agent, Nick Bolton, inside linebacker, Chiefs. Take away one of their best defenders there on the defensive side of the football, and you add a really solid piece right in the middle of your defense.
And Sting, quickly resetting my honorable mention was backup quarterback. I want to bring back Zach Wilson. If he is not going to be given the opportunity to start somewhere else, I think he'd be the perfect backup. He's shown that he gets along well with Bo. Nothing against Jarrett Stidham, but in case something were to happen to Bo, I want to make sure you have a legitimate backup quarterback that can still win you games. I'm stunned how many contending NFL teams leave themselves so thin at the backup quarterback position. I don't want to do that. I bring back Zach Wilson. Number 5, talk about a reunion. Hey, Mike Kliss says the Broncos are going to be in the safety market. Let's bring home Justin Simmons. He was with Atlanta last year on a 1-year, $8 million deal. We know safeties aren't getting paid like they once were. We know he still loves the Broncos. He was getting into Twitter battles after the Broncos lost to the Bills in the playoffs. So I say bring back Justin Simmons. Number 4, you shame me off of Darius Slayton. So I went with a different receiver, Elijah Moore from Cleveland, who was outstanding. Everybody was talking about Jerry Jeudy's performance against the Broncos. That same game, Moore had 8 catches for 111 yards. He's only 25 years old. I think he'd be a really good free agent pickup. Number 3, I went with the running back. I went with Aaron Jones, who was really productive in Minnesota. Played 17 games, 1,500 yards from the line of scrimmage. I think he would be a perfect complement to whatever running back you draft. Number 2, I also went with Jawan Johnson. Stoke and I were on the same page there. You're going to remake your tight end room. Again, draft a tight end. This is the guy to pair up with him, Jawan Johnson, the former Saint. And number 1, Stoke and I, we did not talk about this before we put our list together. I also had Nick Bolton. Not only are you bringing back the best inside linebacker you've had since Danny Trevathan, but you're also taking away from the Chiefs. So those are our top 5 with an honorable mention. What do you think of our list before you get to yours?
I think, I understand your lists. I understand where Stoke is coming from. Your list, not as much, Mike, but Stoke, I get your list. J.K. Dobbins was a guy I looked at, I liked. Chris Godwin, I'm a big fan of Chris Godwin. I love Dre Greenlaw's game, although, he had the Achilles, and then last year he kept getting injured as well. So that's a little bit of a concern there. I like that. The Justin Simmons off the table for me. I don't think that's going to happen. I do like the Elijah Moore pick, Mike. Aaron Jones, I think a little bit older. I know he's very productive. I love both you guys, Jawan Johnson, because I've got him on my list as well.
All right, so give us your top 5.
Well, wait, can I ask you a question before you give us the top 5? Why is Justin Simmons off of your list and not an option for the Broncos?
Because they got rid of him, and I don't think they particularly liked his game toward the end. And this staff was here.
Was it a case of them not liking his game or not liking his game at that price tag that they were paying him, which was $15 million?
It was more of them not liking his game than it was not liking the price tag. Both of those things played a role, but it was more about the game.
Well, you being the NFC South expert that we turn to for stuff like this, the Atlanta Falcons, what did you see in Justin Simmons' game that might not fit with what Sean and Vance want?
Well, I think that Justin is more a middle of the field eraser than he is a big time run support guy. And I think that's the problem that they had in Denver, and that's probably why. What did he sign a 1-year deal in Atlanta?
Yes.
And why he's going to be allowed to hit free agency again out of Atlanta. So I think that's the biggest thing. So that's what I would tell you.
All right. We shall see. Who you got?
All right. So the other thing is, I spent quite a bit of time yesterday afternoon looking at Nick Bolton's game, and I took him off my free agent list. Don't like him.
Whoa. Wait. Oh. You don't like him?
Little Telestrator Wednesday here.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's.
Yeah.
I guess let's start right there. Why do you take off your list entirely the guy that both Stoke and I have number one?
I do not think, like, I think they were so talented up front that he got covered in a lot of ways. And I'll go back to what you always say, Mike, because it's been impressed upon me. The team that knows him best is willing to let a 25-year-old middle linebacker walk.
Fair.
And the guy who's more productive at the linebacker position for them is Drew Tranquill, and I mean by a long shot. So now, listen, man, he's smart. I don't think he's an exceptional athlete at the middle linebacker position. I've watched a bunch of middle linebackers lately. This is what I've been doing in the afternoons, is looking at film. I don't think he runs particularly well. I think he makes up for some of that lack of athleticism at the middle linebacker position with his intelligence and understanding where he needs to be. He plays tight to the line of scrimmage a ton. He doesn't get a lot of depth in his drops in a lot of cases, and that's probably more about scheme than it is about Nick Bolton. But like when he gets blocked, I don't think he sheds blocks well. I don't think he gets off blocks well. I think he gets covered up by a really good defensive line a lot. And like I said, I think Drew Tranquill is a guy that has way more rewindable moments on film than that of Nick Bolton. Now, I did a 3-game sample size throughout the playoffs, but I was so blasé about it. After I was done, I was like, I take him off my list.
Mark,
Go on.
okay, wow, okay, well that's interesting. Now, do you think? I know we don't have Chris Jones, but we got a pretty good defensive front, right? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with DJ Jones, but John Franklin Myers,
Malcolm Roach.
I forgot our other defensive tackle's name.
Zach Allen.
Yeah, Zach Allen.
Yeah.
We got a good front there. Do you think he could thrive with that defensive front?
Yeah, I think he's. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good player, and I think he's a smart player. But what have we talked about in the middle linebacker? Sideline to sideline, a guy that can flat roam, a guy that can get 14 yards of depth, take away those in-cutting routes on the basics, Stoke, and still trigger and come up and tackle you for a 2-yard gain if you dump it off to the back. That's not who he is. I just don't think that's who he is. I think he's really smart. I think he puts himself in good positions. But, like, he gets – when offensive linemen get on him, they block him, man, and they engulf him. He's not the biggest guy, even though he's 230. He's about 5'11". I just don't think he's a supremely gifted talent. When I watch Zach Bond when I watch Zach Bond play and juxtapose that to the film I watched of Nick Bolton, they're not even similar.
Really?
And so yeah. So
are you saying there's really not that much difference between Nick Bolton and Alex Singleton?
Alex Singleton moves better than Nick Bolton. Yeah. No question.